boy, not even 16 years old, was killed because he was playing with a gun. And see, this is an unloaded gun. Right here, this is the gun. No, empty weapon. Empty weapon. This is a Glock 40. 50 Cent, Too Short, all of them talk about Glock 40. Okay, I'm the only one in this room professional enough that I know of to carry this Glock 40. I'm the only one. No more. Is everybody all right? You all right? Nah, that's it. Walk. I got it. Yeah. I had an AP. Yeah, I'm in. Listen up, guys. But listen up. And I made a mistake. So listen to me. God, listen to me. Yeah, listen to me. See that how the accident happened? It can happen to you and you can be blown away. Okay? So guys, never play with guns. See how
now you're on.
That is out of control. Where was he?
It was at a classroom. DA, we're live, by the way. Hi, Janet.
Hi, Janet.
Janet, you might be the only person that's in because we were late announcing tonight.
It's good to have you with us, Janet.
We have one person, Janet, all the way from the UK, so you're probably up late too.
Yeah. How are you doing, Janet?
You're gonna get a there we go.
Cold recovered. Hi there.
Whoosh.
Sorry for our late announcement today. We actually weren't sure if we were going to make it today. Hi, Mandy. Hi, Ann 8152. It's good to see you. Hi, JLM. It's good to see you guys. We were driving a long ways today, and we weren't sure if we were going to make it. And at the last minute, when we knew we were going to make it, we covered down all of our bases and got into the studio. So we're doing well, Janet. It's been a very long day for us, but thank you for asking. We're doing good. We're happy to be here.
I think we just froze up. There we go. We better not freeze up. We're in the studio today.
Yeah. I'm glad you saw this pop up, JLM. We appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah, we'll give this a few minutes because we are kind of late tonight.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
Those of you who missed the little intro there, it was a DEA agent doing a gun safety course for I think first and second graders.
They looked a little bit older.
No, they're little. It was little kids.
Little?
And then he shoots himself in the leg. Then he kind of plays it off like, this is what could happen when you don't use proper
I did that on purpose.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty bad.
What is the equivalent to the DEA in the UK, I wonder? Do they have an equivalent, like a drug enforcement agency?
I don't know, Janet. Help us out.
Do you have something like that, Janet? Hello, Ro. Yeah, I'm curious if the UK, that way we can explain what the DEA does in the United States for our overseas listeners.
Maybe not. JLM, yeah, he did. He literally shot himself in the leg.
Definitely worth going back and rewatching that if you did not get to see that.
If you just Google DEA agent shoots himself at school. Yes, they have a DEA.
They
UK.
do? Okay.
It's probably the same.
Okay. Thanks, Janet.
All right, well, let's jump into it. We're going to probably make this one not crazy long. We're going to keep it fairly short because we got a lot of questions on the round separation. And I have a picture.
Yeah, and round separation, yes.
Hello, Ro and Rod.
Hi,
All
Ro.
right, let's get into some
pictures
that we have here. So for those of you that caught the episode this week, we're talking about trajectory and bullets. Bullets can do weird things.
And I will say, this is a very good episode. This live is going to be a good one to pay attention to because we're going to cover a high profile case that has received a lot of attention within the true crime space.
Look what I did.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good work. Yeah, we're going to cover culpable and the bullet investigation or lack thereof in that case of what was actually discussed by the host of Culpable. So if you have questions about round separation or anything like that, please feel free to ask.
Yeah. Episode 53. It's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. All right. So let's talk about this just a little bit. If anybody followed this week, you got a little bit confused, I'm going to bring this little graphic up again. And essentially, what is important to understand is I've got 3 little images here, but really that's all the same image. The first one that you see all the way to the left, that's what the round looks like while it's still in the shell. Obviously, the casing isn't attached here, but that's the actual bullet or the projectile. The second one that you see there, that's the lead core. The third one you see there is the copper jacket. So if I took the one in the middle, and I picked it up and I put it on inside the one on the far right, and then I folded those little flaps back up, I would essentially get what I started with, which is the one on the far left. Does that make sense to you?
That does make sense. I think people were still confused, though, on how that actually separates, well, in flight, if you will.
Yeah, so it's all, we're going to get into some crazy physics here. The lead is the heavy part. So that's where your mass that's traveling. And the whole point of a hollow point round is it's meant to flower open, which is what we see on the far right there. That jacket, as soon as it hits something, it's meant to peel back. And when those layers peel back, that copper jacket is really light compared to the lead bullet. So because all the energy is in the lead core, the lead will keep traveling and the jacket starts to slow down. And sometimes they can actually separate. So one projectile, what we see on the left, ends up becoming 2, which is the one in the center and the one on the right. And it's called jacket separation. It only happens with jacketed rounds, typically hollow point jacketed rounds.
And under what kind of circumstances would they typically separate?
It's actually pretty common when it goes through a body. So it's not uncommon to find where the separation actually happens in the torso or when it goes through a leg. It's rare that we see a bullet strike something before it hits a person and then still both projectiles hit the person, like we had in this case, where we actually end up with an injury that looks like this.
Okay.
And it was the glass that caused this. So as that round went through the window, that jacket separated from the lead core, and now you have one projectile that splits into 2. And you get the 2 injuries here. And if you look really carefully here, the one on top here, notice it's pretty symmetrical when it comes to a round shape.
Yeah.
That's going to be the lead. That's the core. And then the one below it, notice it's a little bit more jagged. It's not as symmetrical as a round shape. That's going to be the jacket. And the jacket's typically a little bit bigger than the lead round. So that's why you see a little bit difference in the sizes there as well.
Sure.
But yeah, that's we had a lot of questions. I got a couple messages. We had some comments this week on people not quite tracking why that was happening there. So,
right. And if anybody has any more questions about that, please feel free to ask. A lot of people were just so confused about that. So
yeah, so we wanted to cover that a little bit, see what other questions we get. And we actually did a lot of bullet trajectory and like gunshot reconstruction back in the day. And what I can tell you is that bullets do things that people don't realize they do. And a lot of times it comes down to physics again. Bullets spin very fast in a circle when they're traveling. If anybody's ever heard of the twists in a barrel, a lot of rifles, when you buy the rifle, it'll tell you how many revolutions that barrel makes per inch. And the reason you kick that out is the faster the bullet spins, allegedly, the more accurate the bullet can be. What people don't realize is that bullet is spinning so fast that it doesn't take much to knock it out of whack just a little bit. And then they do crazy things. They can go different directions. They can bounce in ways that people don't realize. I did a reconstruction class where we actually shot into sand. And at certain angles, you can actually ricochet a bullet off of soft sand even, because of the impact range. So yeah, just a lot of crazy things. So when I see people talking about trajectory on a lot of true crime stuff, it's kind of a mess.
Well, if they talk about trajectory at all, and I think that's one of our other issues when it came to culpable, was that they didn't even discuss trajectory at all.
You want to get into that just a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I think let's do a pre-live.
Yeah, here's a poll for our few listeners that we have on tonight. I'll throw it up there so maybe some of you can refresh yourself if you remember this. But I'm curious how many people have actually listened to Culpable, specifically season 1.
If you have listened to Culpable, send us a little like capital C.
Yeah, and what you thought about it. Feel free to comment.
Yeah, and what you've thought about Culpable. I am curious how many Socialite Crime Club listeners have listened to that, and if you have questions about that case, please let us know.
What'd you think, DB? I'm really curious. Yeah. So episode 53, while we're waiting on that, okay, we're getting a couple.
Yeah.
Episode 53, I'm not going to get into details because I'm not going to do a spoiler on you guys, but I kind of got involved in Culpable after the season aired. We were good friends with a couple of people that got involved with Culpable season 2. And I was helping on season 2, we tried to work with a detective involved in season 2 a little bit, but in doing so, I ended up having to go through some stuff on season 1 and listen to a handful of things and then got a little bit involved. And we are going to tell a very different story than what season 1 told. And that's going to be episode 53. We are going to take some time to break down the Culpable podcast and really get into what happened with that case, but also a lot of follow-up. There's things that have happened this last year in the courts that I think are very impactful to the true crime community. And we want to bring some awareness to that.
Right. So here's from DB. Those podcasts make me very sad. The families never believe it's possible. There's lots of podcasts where the family doesn't believe the official series of events.
Yeah, the part that I think is sad is I don't know that anybody ever explained it to the family in such a way that would make it possible. So like I said, I'm not going to do too much of a spoiler alert on that, but yeah, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Heather, super suspicious.
Yeah, we hope that we are able to clarify a lot for you, Heather. And we hope that in our clarifications, we really do as much justice as possible for the case as we can, because it is something that we are very passionate about.
And at the end of the day, science saves the day.
Yeah.
So we will get into quite a bit of science on that. Hey, what if? I'm glad you caught a live as well. Usually we're going to have much longer lives, but tonight's kind of probably going to run a little short. So we're glad to see you. Glad that you made it. Thanks for the support there.
Thank you for joining us, What If. And Heather, I'm sorry to hear about your sister.
Oh, yeah.
We've had our own bouts with mental health and taking life opportunities, if you will.
Actually, we've had, unfortunately, a lot of interactions with that through the years.
So I'm sorry to hear about your sister.
Yeah.
And what if, I don't know if we've ever seen you here before, so it's good to have you here. You look like a very big guy. Very big guy. Yes. But it's good to have you here. Hi, Mary Holt and Darian. Hi from Montana. Have you worked on any cases here? Yes, we've worked a lot of cases in Montana.
Darian, maybe Bree can help us at some point and throw it up as well. We did the Cody Johnston case out of Sydney. Mm-hmm. What's the other little town right there? Sydney, and man, it'll come to me at 3:00 in the morning. I'm going to sit up in bed and yell it out.
Yeah, what was the case?
Cody Johnson was the suspect. He killed his girlfriend, and we think he put her in a oil barrel
and dumped her in a river on the
reservation.
Mm-hmm.
We also did one on the west side of the state where I think it was a wife killed her husband. That's when I got caught in the speed trap, and I used I got a ticket. Kind of a funny story about that one, Darren. I flew in to Missoula, and I had to drive up to testify, but I was really late. My flight got delayed. I didn't land till midnight. I was supposed to testify at 8:00 in the morning, so it's about 2 hours north of Missoula. I am speeding, and I drove into a little town, and as I was driving the town, I might have been going 10 or 15 over. It's like 2:00 in the morning. I got stopped by sheriff's department, and he wrote me a ticket. He was sitting there waiting for me. It was totally a speed trap. So the next day when I was testifying to the jury and trying to explain how cell phones work and how we can track cell phones, I used that example to say, yeah, you would see when I landed in Missoula, you'd see when I started my drive up there. And then when I hit this little town with the speed trap and I had to sit there for 15 minutes waiting to get my ticket, you would see that my phone stopped. And everybody on the jury was like, yep, we know that speed trap.
Yeah.
So it worked out really nice.
And Brianna actually just posted the link to that episode in Montana. Thank you, Bree. We appreciate you keeping up on that.
But yeah, we've had a couple. We've actually had quite a few. We also had another case. The name's going to escape me. In Missoula, where boyfriend killed girlfriend, stabbed her, and then dumped her in the snowbank.
Yeah,
we use that in Alive to talk about. So yeah, we've done quite a bit in Montana. Kind of a cool backstory with Montana while we're on this is we first got involved with Montana through Montana Fish and Game. And we did a lot of poaching cases and different types of animal investigations in Montana.
Well, when they initially called us, we had just started our company, ZX, and I received a call from a game warden at Montana Fish and Game, and he asked, hey, can you guys train us? We don't officially solve murders or anything like that, but we do poaching cases. And we had never really done anything with game and fish at that point in our careers. But Cy pretty much said, well, we'll just replace bodies in our cases with animals, and it's all the same thing.
Yeah, we took the training class. We had a week-long training class, and I took all the dead bodies out of all the training scenarios, and I put dead animals in it, and they thought that was the coolest class ever.
Yeah, and then we just basically replaced all of our victims to be animals, and it turned out to be an amazing class. It took off around the country, and we started, after a while, getting real poaching cases coming in because we were working them over time with game and fish across the country. So that actually proved to be a huge success within our business.
What was really funny with that is all of Montana's local agencies, including the state police, started using the game and fish guys to map all their homicides because it was so much better. And then that's how we got to do a lot of law enforcement over there. Kelly, yes, Alabama. We have several cases out of Alabama. The best one I can think of, I can't remember the town. We should do an episode on it one of these days. 2 suspects. It's going to be a triple homicide. They are going to scout the house, and these idiots actually put the address of the house into Google. They then drive by about 2 hours before the homicide, and then they come back 2 hours later and they go in and they kill 3 people. We did a Google geofence on that case, and sure enough, we see these phones come in at the time of the homicide. And once we identified them, we got all their Google data. And when we got all the Google data, we saw that they searched the address that the crime scene actually happened. And then when we mapped the data, you could see them coming down the road, and then they slowed down to like 5 miles an hour as they slowly drove by the house 2 hours before, and then they took off. So not only did we solve that case, we were able to show when they actually stalked the house and searching the address. And
what year was this? I don't even remember this.
I think that was 2018.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Super interesting case though, but yeah.
Missouri, St. Louis. Have we done a case in Missouri? I feel like we have.
Yeah, a couple of cases. Yeah, Missouri. Ooh, Missouri's rough. Hang in there, Sarah.
Missouri. I've been to Branson. I was a kid. Yeah, I did like the little duck boat tour.
Look at DB. DB's got some inside information.
Fog reveal.
Oh dear, they've changed that to Gravy is the name now. So Fog is no longer their name. Too many people were finding out what Fog was all about, so they changed it to Gravy Analytics. Yes, I am very familiar with that product and I've used it a lot. We don't use it because it creates a bunch of legal issues. And if you solve a case with that, there's a great likelihood you're going to get all your evidence tossed. So we quickly analyzed it, came up with some ways that we thought we could legally use it, weren't happy with it, and we've kind of ran from it ever since. And I think a lot of law enforcement has as well, because it is a problem. Those of you who are just tuning in, Fog revealed. Here's the scary tech reveal for the night. So everybody out there, if you think about it, you go in and you Google, I don't know, I'm going to use a pair of shoes. You look at a certain pair of shoes that you've been thinking about buying, but you haven't quite thought yet if you're going to commit or not. You get online, you look up a pair of shoes, you're just about to buy them, and then, okay, you get out. So you don't buy the shoes, but then when you go into Facebook, you start seeing those ads pop up for that exact shoe. What that is causing that is what's called made in identification or made data, and it's mobile advertiser IDs. And there's companies out there that will collect this made data, which has geolocation data. And then there's databases. The
flashlight app that we told you guys about.
There's databases that you can access, law enforcement can access, private companies can access, and it's basically geolocation data.
So even when you guys go and purchase groceries and you guys get the little discount card at your grocery store, the little tag, those types of things will also feed into MAID data because they like to see what you're purchasing at the grocery store. If you go in and purchase bell peppers every week, if you have a tendency to purchase higher dollar things such as truffle oil, or do you purchase low dollar things like Pam, the spray, so that they can target market to you directly.
Okay, we're starting a trend tonight. I can see where tonight's going to go. Rod, yes, we have worked in Tennessee on a handful of cases, but again, wildlife. We've done a lot of wildlife cases in Tennessee. You guys have a really, really solid wildlife agency there that takes some of your poaching cases. And if I remember correctly, didn't we have a sturgeon case out of Tennessee as well?
Was that sturgeon out of Tennessee? I don't remember.
I think so. So yeah, but we've had some cases, and I saw Arkansas. We've actually worked a lot of cases out of Arkansas. There is a Springfield. Help me out here, Laura Chick. It's where the Walmart headquarters are. I think it's Springfield, maybe.
I don't know.
Springdale, Springfield, something like that. There was a organization that was based up there called the National Child Protection Task Force. And it was a nonprofit where we did a lot of work with law enforcement to recover children that were abducted for sex trafficking. And they were headquartered out of Arkansas. So we did a lot of Arkansas cases as well. Well, Gravy gives Cy some credit. Yeah, no, they hate us, DB. Long story. We won't talk about that.
There's a lot of people who don't like us. Actually.
Baltimore, Maryland. We have worked with the Baltimore people. They have a different system that they are very, very happy about. But I'm trying to think, is it Howard County, right outside of Baltimore?
And Prince George's.
I think Howard County is the one that borders. Sarah, Howard County was a really good, long-standing customer. We've done a lot of work in the Howard County area.
Yeah.
Sorry, Salty Grace. Keri and I really don't pay attention to a lot of crime that we don't work because we
not the
take
Jennifer
breaks.
Doulos case.
Do you know
I don't
that
think.
Case? I don't know.
I don't know. You may have touched it at some point, but that's true. Yeah, truffle oil. I have to be really, really good to go to a place that serves a really good truffle oil. Like brie bread appetizer, and Cy will take me there every so often, but
only when you're good.
Yeah.
so it's not that often.
Yeah.
Bentonville, is that the place in Arkansas? That doesn't sound right. Maybe it is.
It might be. It does kind of sound familiar. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, so we get around a lot of cases in a lot of states.
But one thing we definitely always do when we go to Montana is go river rafting. So we always go river rafting down the Alberton
we study
Gorge.
The effects of radio frequency on rough water, and that requires us to take the class on Wednesday and actually get into rough water, which happens to be river rafting. It's a work-related thing.
At least that's how we sell people on it. So that's how we get a lot of people to go to the Montana class, actually. But yeah, so we would every summer do a week-long course in Montana, and every Wednesday after class, we would go river rafting down the Alberton Gorge, and people would go to this class specifically so that they could go river rafting, and it was a great time.
Oh, Kelly, what is this one? I'm trying to get caught up here. I was thinking because the most well-known cold case is a child went missing. Craziness happens to her family. Trap house. Oh, interesting.
I only recently learned about a trap house.
From your daughter.
Yeah, not that she was ever in. Well, I guess she was in one. Well, she said it felt like one, but she was going to college, and I was asking her, "How was your weekend?" And she said, "I was at a party, and it felt like I was in a trap house." And I had to ask her, what is a trap house? And then she explained to me. So I'm glad that I have this knowledge from my children.
They're educating you.
They're educating me on.
Hey, Mom, stay out of the trap houses.
Yeah.
That's good. Good kid there.
Uh-huh.
It's important we stay out of the trap houses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what else do we have here? Oh, look at this. Howard County is where I was born. Okay, Sarah. I'm familiar with that laboratory. We haven't worked with them, but that's actually just down the street there. It's was
That is
close
close.
to as you head to Germantown, if I remember correctly, or towards Germantown. Is it tax deductible?
What, the river rafting?
This was for law enforcement, but if you guys want to go river rafting, I'm sure we can set up some type of a river rafting retreat in Missoula.
That would actually be a lot of fun.
Figure something out. Yeah, we when we taught our 40-hour week-long class, it's all law enforcement, and everybody loved going to Montana in the summer. So we would go in July, and the Wednesday we would only do half a day of instruction in the classroom. The other half we take the whole class and go river rafting. So sure, it was tax deductible for us. It was a business.
What was even better though with that class was that it was usually always hosted by Game and Fish. So we would have homicide detectives from all over the country coming to a Game and Fish like training that they're putting on. So they would actually be investigating poaching cases using the same methodologies and tactics that they just worked for everything within the cell phone realm. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Hey, Twiz is on tonight. Good to see you again, Twiz.
And there's Lovetina 2010.
Oh dear.
Toes turning over every stone. I like that. Yeah. We have Christy Nevada. Lots of people who popped in. I was expecting just your mom to be here tonight.
Yeah, and I don't think she's in. So look at that.
Yeah, it's good.
All right, let's get back into some of these other cases. Northport, Alabama.
Heaven Lachey Ross.
All right, I'll look at it, Kelly. We will definitely take a look at it. We've been looking at a handful of cases lately that we're taking. In fact, I'm starting to get really busy with some cases again. I'm going to have to focus on some stuff here in a little bit.
Yeah, we have a lot coming into our calendar and schedule that we're really trying to figure out how to manage. So
it's actually a really good book. I haven't read the whole thing. I've read a couple pieces of it, but that's actually a really well-known book. John Douglas is kind of a badass. That guy is super wicked smart.
Yeah.
That's a big profiling book too, by the way. If you haven't seen it before, love Tina. It's actually really good. If you get into like that profiling mindset, John Douglas is kind of the man.
Hi, Mimi. It's good to have you with us. Thank you for coming in tonight. Tony Johnson, I went through the TWRA Hunter Safety Program when I was 12. Cool.
Someone said, hey, it's not Joe Rogan. You're right. It's not Joe Rogan. Love that.
Oh, that's so funny. But hey, what do we want to get into as it relates to trajectory investigations?
Well, we covered a lot of that early on.
We did cover it a lot.
If we're going to talk about culpable a little bit, I think it is really important that when we're looking at cases that we know involve a gunshot injury, like the cause of death, whether it's homicide, suicide, whatever it is, it's important for us to understand that we have to have a trajectory reconstruction. And those of you that have seen or listened to Culpable, you'll notice they never talk about trajectory. And that was one of the things that kind of popped up on my radar right from the beginning, is that there's very little discussion. So we have worked that case and obtained a handful of tidbits and information that have allowed us to go in and actually look at the trajectory on that case. And it got really interesting when we did. So that's what we're going to cover in episode 53. So we have a while before it comes out. I think it's the first week of November.
Right. But I think it is important for people to go in and really listen carefully if you have a chance. If you can't, it's totally okay. It's 14 hours to get through the whole thing.
Culpable. Yeah, it's
Culpable. And I will say I personally had a really hard time getting through the whole.
You fell asleep.
I did fall asleep a lot. But yeah, it was hard for me to listen to things like that and without being really critical of what I'm listening to. And then when I'm sitting next to Cy in a really long car ride, I do sometimes fall asleep because he's like outraged at what he's hearing.
It's not true.
Yeah, just the injustice of everything. And so then I do fall asleep so that I'm
maybe some common myths that we can dispel with bullet reconstruction or any type of trajectory reconstruction. Bullets can change path. The idea that they always travel in a straight line is total nonsense, especially when they hit a body. As they travel through the body and they start to go off of canter a little bit, they can actually start to tumble. And when a bullet tumbles, it will change its path. So it's not super uncommon at all for a bullet to enter the torso at one area, hit something, start to tumble, and come out at a different area. And what a lot of people may not realize is actually the more impactful the round is. So like a rifle round, if you start to get into like a 223 or a 308, they're spinning so fast in this little circle, if you will, that when they hit the skin, they start to tumble. And as soon as they start to tumble, that's what they're designed for. It's the most devastation that they can create, but they will change direction.
Can you talk a little bit more about tumbling, like what that process actually is?
Yeah, so as the bullet's fired out of the barrel has this groove in it that's a twisting groove. So as the bullet accelerates through the barrel, it starts to twist because of this groove. So when it comes out of the barrel, it's spinning around.
Mm-hmm.
That improves the accuracy. The faster a bullet spins, the more accurate it becomes as it flies through the air. The problem is a lot of those really high-powered rounds, like a 223 or a 308, it's spinning so fast that as soon as it hits something, it'll tumble. And what that means is it goes off of its axis and it'll actually start to go end over end or sideways. And when that happens, it's now tumbling instead of flying straight. And as it hits things, it can literally deviate the trajectory and it can turn. It's not like, what's the movie with Angelina Jolie where they bend the bullets? I forgot the.
Oh, yeah.
Wanted, I think, or something like that. It's not like that. That's not what I'm saying. It's not that they can do it through the air, but when it hits things, and a lot of true crime that I listen to, people will start talking about bullet trajectory and they'll start trying to piece or reconstruct a scene with this theory that bullets have to travel straight no matter what they pass through. And we find that just absolutely is not accurate. Another thing that a lot of people may not realize, another fun little tidbit, is angled. If they hit something angled, it can actually change the direction as well. When I was on SWAT, we used to spend a lot of time shooting at windshields at different degrees of angle, the angular impact, because as the bullet hits the windshield, it'll actually push it down. So if you're trying to shoot through a windshield, what people don't realize a lot of times is the bullet will impact inside the car much lower than you're aiming, because as it passes through the windshield, it'll actually turn it down. So yeah, the idea that trajectory is always a straight line is very inaccurate. Like I said earlier tonight, we had this really cool class where we spent a week just shooting different types of guns at different things, trying to create these anomalies. And we found that we were very accurate at bouncing bullets off of soft sand. And where most people think sand is really soft, it's just simply going to go right into it. It just doesn't do that.
They're asking, are you talking like blanks?
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about blanks. I have a really good blanks story.
Okay.
So blanks typically there is no lead projectile in the round. A lot of times it'll just be the gunpowder itself, and they'll put like either a paper wad, like some wax paper in there, or it'll just have like a little piece of wax that they melt over the top. And when the primer strikes, just the powder burns, and that makes the noise. I actually went to a training in Boise, Idaho, where they were using blanks, and they were doing the scenario where we're clearing houses. And I came around a corner and somebody shot me with blanks, like right in the face. And what they didn't realize is all that powder still comes out the end of the barrel. So it completely pelted me, burned me really good. That's why I look the way I do today.
Oh, stop.
As far as magic bullet, who knows? I'm sure there's some crazy way, but yeah, I'm not smart enough to know the inner details there. Hit us, Kelly. Tell us what this question is. I'm so interested. Meanie's the same thing, a magic bullet. I just don't know. I don't believe so, because if it's something that can simply disappear, I don't think people realize just how much force is applied to a projectile as it's fired through, especially a high-powered one that would travel far enough to actually make the scenario of you know what they're talking about?
No.
I've seen all kinds of things where people saying they freeze the projectile and load it really quick, and it's a piece of ice, so that by the time law enforcement investigates it, the ice is melted and there's no evidence of it.
It sounds like an anomaly.
Yeah, the ice would completely dissipate in the barrel. It probably wouldn't even come out the end other than a drip.
Well, what it kind of reminds me of a bit, so in the call detail record world, and very complex data world, there are a lot of people, when they don't understand what they're looking at, or they get a really hard question in the courtroom, they'll usually blame the data of not being precise because it's an anomaly in the data. Well, typically it's because they can't explain what's happening within the data set. So they'll use the excuse of, well, it's just an anomaly. We can't really say what happened with it. When in reality, there typically is an answer. They just don't know it. But that's a little bit of what the magic bullet idea reminds me of.
It's just a good conspiracy theory. Yes, blanks can absolutely end somebody's livelihood. In fact, somebody fact check me to make sure I'm not throwing bad information out. But if I remember, I think that's how Bruce Lee was killed. Or
with a blank?
Was it Bruce Lee or no? Who was the Crow? His son, Brandon Lee?
I don't know.
I think Brandon Lee was killed on the set of The Crow with blanks, I believe. Somebody can fact check me and see. A buddy said he used a rifle shotgun barrel and got a deer at 95 yards. Is that BS? It is totally possible, Darian. We used to do a lot of stuff with 12 gauge slugs, and 12 gauge slugs can be extremely accurate, especially if you have a rifled barrel. 95 yards, maybe not. Remember, the bigger, the heavier the round, the faster it's going to slow down. So with a shotgun, especially 12 gauge, 95 yards might be a stretch.
Maybe he wasn't really wearing his glasses. Maybe he was closer than what he
I
thought.
like how you made an excuse that he's not wearing his glasses.
Yeah.
Maybe he's full of crap and wanted to make it sound really good, Darian. He was at 15 yards. It's hard to say. But yes, I would not want to be standing 95 yards away from a slug round in a shotgun. It's probably not going to kill me, but it's probably going to hurt. So I won't say it's impossible, but it's probably not possible.
Just playing devil's advocate today.
Yeah.
Did we
Love
catch...
Latina? Nah, I think I'm with you.
Did we catch Heather Fitzgerald up here? I think I remember hearing that if you have to shoot through glass, that you want to be as close to the glass as possible.
Well, I guess that depends. The round's still going to bend. So and that's why we did a lot of training shooting through windshields. Is we found ourselves, I was part of a fugitive apprehension team for quite a while. And we would apprehend a lot of people when they're in the cars, because if we could contain their car, it was the safest way to do it. Where they're not in a house where maybe there's other victims potentially around. If we could somehow box in the car where it's just them in the car, that was the easiest way. But of course, if we start taking fire from them inside the car and we're having to return fire, it's important that police train, hey, if we're kind of setting it up where we may end up in a shooting into a vehicle, we should practice and train and make sure that we're doing it accurately. My experience is no matter how close we got to the windshield, whether we were right on it or far away, we're still getting that deviation that the round would go when it goes to the windshield. So yeah, for what that's worth.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The magic bullet theory for JFK is denying there was more than 2 shots, and the one did the crazy route that hit JFK and the Dallas mayor.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm not super up to speed on JFK. I've been to the little grassy knoll. That counts. But I don't know enough about all the JFK piece other than it's a great conspiracy that has lived and probably will continue to live. I know it's super sad because I think JFK was actually a pretty interesting individual.
Yeah, I don't know much about that case either, to be honest. I've seen like a lot of the old footage and documentaries of the day and just those details surrounding his life, but I don't know much about the investigation of it either.
Yeah, sorry, we're not up on that one. Maybe that'll
be
Sarah. An episode we do at some point.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Reinvestigating JFK.
Historical episodes?
Yeah, we'll also have to do the bank robber. What's the guy that jumped out of the plane? It'll come to me later too. In Oregon.
Oh,
come on, Socialites. Yeah. Somebody
he's the guy that jumped out of the plane in Oregon.
I want to say DB, it's not Mooney. DB Cooper.
DB Cooper. Okay.
Thanks, right. Angel. Oh, there's Twiz. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm a little slow this evening. What else do you want to talk about?
I'm not sure. I don't know. We were mainly wanting to cover the trajectory things tonight so that everybody was, and just be in front of our socialites tonight. Because
and those of you that came in a little late, if you missed it, we covered this part from this week's episode. So where we were looking specifically at, hey, this jacket separation and what is jacket separation. So if you heard this week's episode and you're a little confused and you came in late, you can rewatch the first part of the live. We get into how this jacket separation
and
happens.
you can watch the DEA agent who shoots himself in front of a classroom full of children.
Yeah, we let in with the DEA agent, which is kind of funny. But this jacket separation is really important to an upcoming episode that we're going to do, episode 53. So we kind of wanted to cover down on that and make sure everybody was tracking really well with that one.
Oh, thank you for asking.
Is it because you're sober? Yeah, you might be onto something.
I'll get to grandma. Question: have you ever been tricked by directionality or spatter pattern?
Yeah, there's two types of people who do blood spatter: those who have been tricked and those who will be tricked. So it is a lot of work to put together blood spatter reconstruction, and more importantly, it is a methodology that requires multiple peer reviews. I would be very, very leery of one person looking at blood spatter, especially complicated blood spatter, and reaching an opinion. Typically, that's where we want 3 or 4 people working together, all of them looking at stuff independently and then coming back together with a unanimous decision. But yes, blood spatter can be very, very challenging. And we're going to get into that a little bit with episode 53 as well. Mm-hmm. A lot of blood spatter there. So hopefully that answers it, Kelly. The first thing I throw out when I see people talking about blood spatter is who did the peer reviews and what are their backgrounds and how are the peer reviews done. For those of you that are tracking on peer reviews, they should be done independently. And what I mean by that is if I'm doing a really high profile case that I know I'm going to be challenged 15 different ways, when I finish doing my work product, I'm going to send that out to 3, 4, maybe half a dozen other experts and ask them to peer review it. I'm going to give them very limited information, just give them the facts, my report, and the evidence. Let 3 to 12 of them, however many it is, all review it independently. They don't know each other as far as who's doing the review. And then all of it comes back. And now I can say, okay, 9 out of 12 of them pointed out this one issue. That's probably something I need to look at, right? So with blood spatter specifically, it's really, really important to get that peer review process because it is very, very easy to miss. Or there's a lot of math. Sometimes we just screw up the math.
So
grandma?
My grandma is doing wonderful. I went and had breakfast with her on Friday. My daughter and I did. And she's doing good. She's tired from the move, but she didn't want to really go out and do anything. So we had raisin toast and coffee in her new little place, and that was nice. But she's happy. So I'll see her again this week. But thank you for asking. I appreciate that.
Oh, Heather, very interesting question. So I'm going to talk about my experience in looking at this type of stuff prior to 2021, which is when we sold the company. So prior to 2021, it was very typical that we would work with this type of data on a regular basis. They can take quite a while. It depends on how busy they are. I've seen it within a few months, and I've seen it well over a year. And Pitbull Metopotamus should ask his own questions.
This Heather Fitzgerald, you may get an answer to this question
very soon
or in a few months.
And I may have answered the more important question here, similar to blood spatter, is who's doing the peer review. And what I mean by that, not singling any particular entity out, but if Keri has never really worked with cell phones, and the only experience Keri has with cell phones is what I've told her about and my methodologies in the way that I look at cell phone records. And then I do a big case and I write my report, and then I hand that report to Keri, and I'm like, hey, Keri, how does my report look? The problem there is we're in a vacuum, right? Keri is only going to be able to look at that report based on her training experience, which so happens to be everything that I've told her. So she would say, yep, good job, Sai. You did exactly what you told me you should do. The idea of a peer review, a real peer review, is let me send it out to a bunch of different experts with different backgrounds, different training, different life experience to look at it. And now I'm going to get some different opinions that are coming back that I may agree with and I may not. Just because I do a peer review and somebody corrects something in my report doesn't mean they're right. It just brings up the conversation that, oh, that's an interesting point. I didn't consider that. Let's talk about it. And maybe my conclusion stays the same. Maybe I change it. Maybe we meet somewhere in the middle and modify it. But the idea of single peer reviews within a vacuum of a bunch of people who are all trained the exact same way, all that's going to do is confirm it's done the exact same way, not necessarily right. And I've already said too much. Thanks, Heather. You're getting me in trouble. Truth and Transparency came in with $20.
Thank you. Hi, Angel. It's good to see you. And from the UK as well. Hi, Lana. Thank you.
You're in Delphi. That's right. That started this week.
Oh, Delphi started this week.
Not that any of us are tracking for any reasons.
Kelly can't get it right. Did we answer your question? Did you?
Oh,
I think we did.
Hang on, Kelly. Have you ever been tricked? Yeah, I think we.
Yeah, we just covered that. Yeah.
Maybe she wanted an exact example, and probably the most accurate one that I could give you, Kelly, is counting swings of an object. I was really off once where there was this really brutal fight. I'll spare some details because it may be an episode one of these days, of a man that was attacking basically another man who happens to be the father of the suspect. 16-year-old comes out of his bedroom and sees this guy at the front door literally trying to kill his dad, grabs a knife and starts stabbing the bad guy multiple times. Based on the cast off that we saw from the knife, it looked like we had at least 4 different swings of this knife, but it didn't match up with the stab wounds in the body, which I didn't know because it was a really, really bloody scene. And a lot of times when we have victims just covered in blood, law enforcement's not going to clean the victim up at the scene. That all goes to the coroner's office and it's done during autopsy. So I was looking at the blood spatter at the scene. I thought it was probably at least 4 stab wounds. Well, and then I get to the autopsy and it was 3. And long story short, what ended up explaining this whole thing is where I assumed that there was these 4 stab wounds. I won't call him the suspect because he did save his dad's life. The kid that was stabbing this other guy, he swung around because he got turned around. The guy grabbed him, and as he turned around, he got kind of swung centrifugally, and it looked like another stab, but it wasn't. It was him getting thrown off of balance. So that was my screw up. And the pattern was different. So once he explained that to me and I went back and looked, I'm like, oh, I should have caught that, but I didn't. Hopefully that's the question, Kelly.
Let us know, Kelly, if we answered the right question or not. Watching Law and Crime. Hi, Keri. I'm Keri. Was watching Law and Crime last night, and they had the Sasha Krause case on, Missing Mennonite.
Mm-hmm.
Was interesting to see the interview with Gooch after he was brought in. Was disappointed they didn't give you credit, though.
Yeah, that's all right. That happens a lot of times, and that's actually by design, Keri. Back when we were doing a lot of this work, we didn't really want to be in the forefront. It was really important because remember, for us at that time, it was a business. So it was really important to support our customers, which happened to be law enforcement. So there's a lot of cases, which is kind of the basis of what Socialite Crime Club is. What we're telling is all those stories is back then it was very important to us to put law enforcement forward facing, right? It's these men and women who are in the trenches doing the work. We're just helping with that consulting piece and kind of help guiding them, if you will. But yeah. That's good. If you watch YouTube, actually, we testified. Sev Dishman was one of our employees at the time, and you can actually Google his name. Kind of funny story about Sev. He was a command sergeant major with Special Forces, and on his YouTube testimony, they had to get into his background to qualify him as an expert. And there's a lot of comments about, it looks like this guy wants to kill me. So it was kind of funny because he is kind of a intimidating person when he's just sitting there. If you know him, though, he's not that intimidating. So no set rules on patterns. Huh? Interesting. Thank you. I wanted to be a genetic but yeah, I get it. I wanted to be a fighter pilot, but my eyes sucked and everybody told me I was dumb.
I'm pretty sure I should have been a dentist.
Yes.
Have you ever been on a cleaned up blood scene? If so, what did they do and what gave it away? This is a great question because, Angel, this will also lead into things that we talk about on Culpable.
Yeah, episode 53, we're going to get knee deep. But if you want to go back in the archives, the Darren Hale case. And sorry, thank goodness Bree's with us tonight. Hey, Bree, I forgot what episode that is. If you can throw that up.
Where do we draw the line?
So with Darren Hale, Sharon Hale, who her father actually stabbed Darren to death in the hallway. She repainted the entire hallway. This is the one where she mopped over and over again. There was so much blood on the tile that she was filling a mop bucket full, mopping. The moppy water would turn like blood soaked. She would dump it in the backyard, and she kept repeating this over and over again until she got all the blood off of the tile. Well, when we had cadaver dogs at the house months later, it took us a long time to put that case together. The cadaver dogs kept hitting where she was dumping the bloody water. On that one, we did Blue Star, which if you've heard of luminol, Blue Star is kind of similar to luminol, a little bit more accurate. And it took us about a week, and we processed that entire house with Blue Star, and we found on the wall where the actual stabbing took place. And we ended up seizing the entire wall. So that entire wall went to our evidence room for the case. I will tell you this, if properly analyzed, properly processed, and I'm going to emphasize the word properly, it is very, very, very difficult to conceal blood from a blood scene, like especially a really bloody scene. So where we hear lots of stories about, oh, they must have cleaned up the scene, I don't think people realize how hard it is to clean up a very bloody scene. And I'm sure that they don't understand all of the scientific advancements that will show that cleanup. So it's pretty difficult these days to really clean up a scene, if that helps with any of that, Angel.
Thanks, Angel. That was a great question.
The worst smelling crime. Oh, this one's bad, Toes. You want to go first?
I
know mine.
You have a couple. Oh, you know yours already?
Yeah.
I'm wondering which one you're going to tell.
The trailer, the mobile home.
Oh, I didn't know if you were going to talk about the evidence in your car.
Oh, did we ever talk about? We didn't.
No,
we didn't.
We didn't because we didn't know if we should.
Okay. Socialites. Keri's diving.
If you guys remember,
stand by.
This is sad though. So it's sad because of the case. So Roses for Jackie. If you guys all remember Roses for Jackie, that was a very, very impactful case for Sai's career.
Yeah, let's just summarize. I'm sure most of you have probably seen it. This was the 18, 19-year-old girl first date with Jonathan Burns. He takes her to the pool hall. They're kind of kissing in the truck, but then later on he sexually assaults her, drives her out to the desert, shoots her in the back of the head and kills her. Dumps her body in the desert. And this was one of my first big cell phone cases because this is where we recreated basically drive testing before drive testing was a thing by using his phone and making a bunch of phone calls with GPS. We ended up finding the body. When we found the body, it took us about 3 days to process the scene out there because it was a really big scene. And at the final piece of the 3 days, I don't think I'd slept in probably 3 or 4 days at that point, or like I'm catching an hour nap here and there. We're loading all the evidence into different vehicles. We go to the evidence room, which is about an hour and a half drive. It's maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. We impound all the evidence and everybody just goes about their business. About a week later, my car really started to smell and I couldn't figure out like, what is that smell? And it finally got bad enough. I stopped, pulled over, started cleaning out. And I was on SWAT at the time, and I would always have my SWAT gear with me. So half of my trunk is full of all the SWAT equipment. And I start moving things around and clean everything out. Well, I find a bag that we didn't impound because it just slid behind some of my SWAT stuff. And with her decomposition, because she was out in the desert for several weeks before we found her and some animal activity, her scalp was completely detached. And we bagged it up and we threw it in a trunk to go impound it, and it didn't get impounded. And those of you who are familiar with Phoenix, once that smell gets in your car, any heat at all just brings it back. So I had that car for about 3 years after that case, and every time it got hot in Phoenix and I got in that car, I could smell that for years. But that's not the one I was thinking of.
Oh, sorry.
That one was weird, but it wasn't the worst smell. The worst smell I ever had was somebody who had a heart attack in a mobile home, and they fell in the hallway on top of the heater vent, and they lived by themselves. They didn't have a lot of family support. So it was about 3 weeks before they were found, and it was in the middle of the winter. So the heater's constantly running, and they literally became part of, like, as the body decomped, they became part of that heater vent, which we didn't know there was a heater vent there. So when we went to roll him over, it was, I'll save everybody details, but it was kind of a little explosion, and it was not good. I think I smelled that on my body for weeks. It's when you take a shower and it still doesn't come off.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
So for me, I it was going to a man who had had a heart attack, but he was laying on his couch in his underwear while he was eating apple pie. If you're ever alone in your apartment, don't eat naked on your couch. You never know if you're going to die there.
There is no dignity in death.
There's no dignity in death. It's not often there's dignity in death, right? So he actually had been eating apple pie and he had a heart attack and he rolled over off of his couch and he was in his little whitey tighties and his face fell into his pie. But he had been there a couple of days already by the time anybody actually said, hey, we need a welfare check on this individual. So just that stench of body in there rotting, like you can really smell that. But
yeah, those of you who smell the dead body, like you can't ever get that out. We did have the one where the guy was in the jacuzzi and shot himself. Yeah. And when he shot himself, he went back and hit the cover, and then the cover closed on top of him.
But how many days had he been in the jacuzzi?
Weeks. Like he was pretty much a soup. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, that was sad.
All right, moving on. Jeez, you guys have
also
such terrible
going
questions.
Into booking people into jail is one of the worst smells you will ever smell. It's disgusting.
You have to take a shower.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Love Tina. I have a really good answer for this one. This was the one thing I did enjoy when I became a sergeant is I liked being able to do the entire crime scene where you have multiple people working all within their specialties. So we have a legitimate crime scene photographer. We have legitimate blood spatter or reconstruction, whatever it might be. And kind of playing that little puppet master of being able to make sure we have all the right people in all the right places and bringing it all together. I really enjoyed the supervision piece of making sure we had everything we needed at a crime scene because it gets really disjointed. I don't think people realize how disjointed a crime scene can be. And there needs to be one person that's kind of overlooking over the whole thing and making sure all these little pieces are coming together. But definitely that was some of the highlights of my career, I think, was running scenes like that.
Mm-hmm. Cy and Keri, have you watched the documentary Nicole Brown Simpson's Sisters released this past summer? No. I didn't know there was one.
I used to be really interested in that case. I used to use that a lot for teaching in blood spatter because it is kind of a textbook of what not to do on crime scenes. But yeah, I'm super interested, Sarah. I'll have to look it up. Will a shower curtain protect you? Depends on what you're trying to be protected from.
One time my car smelled like a dead body. Turned out a boiled and peeled egg had fallen under the seat. Oh my gosh. So my daughter actually vomited in my car once when she was little. She was like 3, but she had motion sickness. And I could never get the smell of vomit out of my car in the summertime. It always smelled like that.
Hang on, Angel. I'll come back to you. This is actually pretty funny. Yeah, the positions, things that people are wearing, things that they left around their house, maybe weird fetishes that they're into around the time of their death. Everything gets revealed when you die, which was why I was saying there's no dignity in death. Your deepest, darkest secrets typically will come to light very quickly for your investigators. Mm-hmm. Some of those things I will never tell, but yeah, they're pretty crazy. Strangest case. Why don't you go first on that one? I need a minute to think of this one.
The strangest case. I don't know. Strange. Can we come back to this one? Let's come back to this one. Give us a minute to mull this over.
See, when you say strange, I'm thinking just odd, where things don't make sense. A couple of them comes up. We didn't do a lot of work on this case. It was out of, I think, Rochester. New York State Police was working this case, and it was some Jamaican drug dealers who killed a couple people, drove their bodies out like 3 hours away from Rochester to, I think it was a quarry, decapitated the 2 victims, burned their bodies in this quarry, and then drove like 2.5 hours back to Rochester. But they brought the heads with them and put them in their freezer. So when law enforcement served the search warrants a couple of weeks later, they actually recovered the heads in the freezer. So they went to great lengths they cut off the hands too for fingerprints, but they cut off the head, they cut off the hands, they burn the bodies, but they bring everything back home with them and put it in the freezer. So I think that's definitely going to be like, just what the hell were they thinking?
Just a trophy.
Yeah, it was weird. Super weird.
So a little Halloween-y story. I can't say it was my strangest case, but it's just one that comes to mind. We had a woman who her husband had died recently, and she had her son living with her. And she also had her new boyfriend living in the house with her. that she and her husband had lived in. And I think the husband had knew about this man prior to his death. His death was all legitimate. But apparently they started having doors slamming in their house that were inexplicable. And she had lived there all of her life. And she said that had never happened. And the son said that this had never happened, these door slamming events. So we were, as a patrol unit, we'd have sometimes like 3 or 4 people out there because they would call literally in fear of their lives, and they would come running out of the house thinking that there were ghosts in the house. But they had failed to let us know that they had recently had some duct work done in their house. And so we spent a long time trying to figure out what the slamming doors were in their house.
If you ever have that issue, look at the height between the bottom of your door and your carpet. And if you're having doors shut whenever the air conditioning or heater comes on, you need to cut about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of a gap between the door and the carpet, and it'll fix that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Gilbert Police Department became Ghostbusters for about a month.
That's not your strangest case. Remember the bird welfare? Tell the bird welfare check.
The bird welfare?
There was a bird. There was some type of family issue, and there was a really expensive parakeet or macaw, and you had to go check on the bird, but then you ended up finding a mummy.
Oh, no, that wasn't my case. I think that was
Maria's.
Yeah, that was Maria's case.
But you were there.
Yeah. No, I wasn't there for that one.
Oh, I got called on that one. I thought that was you. So
No,
we had a
that wasn't
patrol
my case.
sergeant who got called to do a welfare check on a bird, some type of a divorce, if I remember right. And one of the parties got the bird, and the other party hadn't seen the bird in a long time, and they couldn't get any answers. So we went over. There was nobody home. They actually forced entry because they thought that maybe the bird was dead, and there was all kinds of crazy issues.
But it was a really expensive, exotic bird that they were worried about.
Yeah, and the guy who lived there, I think it was his mom, had died months, like 6-7 months before, and he just shut the door to her bedroom and left her alone, and she had literally mummified into the bed because he was collecting, I think it was her Social Security, and he didn't want to report that she died because he was living off of her Social Security. But by the time we got there, I got called on that one for.
But they were having parties and get-togethers at this house.
As long as you didn't go in that room, everything was
for
fine.
like years before this person was found. Yes, be mindful of your choices. I don't eat apple pie, actually. I never really thought about that until you just mentioned it. But I did used to like it, but I don't eat it now.
Darian, mine is Keri and I have a really demented, sick, twisted humor, and we have to really check ourselves. Some of the times we don't we've gotten really good at it now, but there was a time where we didn't realize how absurd some of our conversations sound, and we had to be really careful when we were in the presence of other people. But I think humor is probably the biggest thing we do to decompress.
Yeah, humor is definitely a decompression tool that we use, but I would say humor. We really don't.
What do you think about that question?
Talking about strange, do you
Keri
believe
and I
in
have
the
very different
paranormal?
opinions here.
And if so, have you ever seen anything that scared you or you couldn't explain? Yes. But when I was early teens, I did. And my dad said I was a kook, but my mom had seen the same exact thing in the house. It was.
So kookiness was hereditary?
I guess so. Maybe you're right. I don't know. But no, but I was early teens, and I remember in my bedroom at night, there used to be this woman who, at least in my head, she would float in the corner of my room, and she had on this white guest dress. She was kind of faceless, but she would just watch me while I slept. But what's interesting is I had never told my parents about this, but I did bring it up at dinner one evening, and my mom said, I've seen her too. She actually floats above me and tries to smother me at night. And it was the weirdest thing. And then that's when my dad said we both belong in the loony bin. And but what's interesting is after we talked about it, I never saw her again. But I had seen her for months on end. But once we talked about it, it was done.
Yeah, I'm not a big paranormal person. I think it's because I just haven't experienced anything. I do think that there's life outside of our little sphere here.
Mhm.
But I'm not big in the paranormal thing. Just haven't had enough experience with that.
You just don't have the aura about you.
I thought
no.
for some reason they just don't want to talk to me.
Yeah, what do they call your glow or something?
I have a very depressing glow. They avoid me.
Your glow is gray. That's probably why.
It makes me sad though.
I'm sorry.
It's the funniest excuse alibi you've ever heard.
Oh,
I mean, you've got to always go with these aren't my pants, but
I had a lady blame me that I was racist once when I pulled her over for DUI.
That's right. I forgot about this.
Yeah, so she blamed her massive DUI on the fact that I was racist, and then the entire internet was saying that, supporting her, basically saying that I was like probably some white redneck out of somewhere that just wanted to.
Well, you did work for a very majority population, very white, very conservative agency. But yeah, They didn't realize you were Hispanic.
No, or female.
Yeah, because they never put pictures on there. It just said Officer Monzo. So everybody just thought that you were this white jerk.
Yeah.
And come to find out after everything cycled around, they're like, oh, it's a Hispanic female.
But she had so many drugs on board that it was clear that she was clearly DUI. But yeah.
Man, the funniest alibi. Ooh, I'd have to
Hi, Swamp Rose.
Let me digest that one a little bit, Angel. I'll get back to you because I've had some pretty good ones over the years.
Let's see. The Russians and Caviar was in Branson, right?
I think it was just outside of Branson. It's in that area, yes. Yeah, pretty close. Oh, look at this one. It is spooky. If you're afraid to talk about it, things will start happening.
Mm-hmm. It is spooky.
There's the episode. Thanks, Bree.
If you're afraid to talk about it, things will happen. Now things are going to start happening to you, Sai.
Yeah, okay. Well, so we'll cover it in our next one, but don't anybody hold their breath.
I kind of hope it does happen to you.
Me too. I think it would be.
I hope it does.
I think it would be awesome. Maybe it'll change me. I'm not sleeping tonight now. Sorry, Meanie.
Amethyst Noir. That's a cool screen name. I work as an intuitive counselor and investigator in a cold case group.
It's very interesting.
What is an intuitive counselor? I don't know what that is. I've never heard that.
I know, but for the sake of not appearing to be a complete idiot, I'm going to wait for her to answer.
Yes,
yeah, and then I'll say how wrong I was.
That's a good idea. Yes, we'd love to know more about that Amethyst Noir.
I've heard the smell of burnt flesh is horrible.
Imagine, like, have you ever burnt bacon really bad?
I don't know that that's it. Bacon smells good no matter what.
I don't know.
I would compare it to branding, like branding.
Yes, branding a cow. If anybody has ever smelled a branded cow, because of the hair,
but it's also burnt skin if you're doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to do a lot of branding when I was a kid in my past life, so I always have hated the smell of branding. I mean, I have smelled a number of dead bodies.
I've also heard that like laser hair removal smells very much like branded cattle as well.
Yeah, and we're going to get completely off the rails here tonight, Kelly. I will tell you, a burnt body does not smell as bad as a decomposed body.
Yeah, no.
So for what that's worth, yeah. That doesn't mean anybody should go do it. But anyway, we're going to get kicked off of YouTube now. Why does Sai have Sober October but not Keri? Well, Twiz, let me tell you, Keri is an oak. That girl does not bend. She does not sway. She's been on about little secret into our back lives. She decided to seriously curb all drinking about 2.5, 3 months now. Yeah. And she went through quite a weight loss, and then she started working out again. And I was like, ooh, my girl's super hot again. I better get my shit together. Yeah. So she kind of guilted me by taking the lead and doing it first. And I'm like, oh, maybe if I just went through Sobertober, I would drop 15 pounds or so just by not drinking this month. And I'm actually on a pretty good clip right now. Weigh-in is Tuesday morning. I'll report back to you guys next week, but so far so good. Yeah, she guilted me into it.
My goodness. Angel, you have been really well behaved. Good work. Thank you.
Not like Twiz. Trying to start issues. Keri. I'm dating myself. I'm wondering how many people ever watched the Brady Bunch. Okay, a couple more here.
I managed to own for a long time. We had a lady not want to pay because we wouldn't service the demon in her TV. That won't stop calling her name. What was the episode that we were talking about once where it was a drug user, but where we talked about the electronics? It's a mental health thing where drug users, the
I had a
electronics
case
speak to
where
them.
the mom thought that Bill Cosby was telling her to kill her family, and she took a bat and like was chasing her kids around when we got there. She was going to kill her family because Bill Cosby told her to on the TV.
But it isn't unusual for, I forget what kind of drugs they're on, when they do start to think that their electronics are speaking to them or that their electronics are alive.
Yeah.
But it's typically mental health issues from drug use. So
of course, this was probably 15 years ago. So when she was trying to blame Bill Cosby as being the bad guy, we're all like, come on, it's not. Nowadays, I'm like, oh shit,
maybe Bill
Bill
Cosby was.
did.
I don't know. Maybe.
It's always possible. It's your most difficult case that ended up being something so simple to solve. Oh, boy.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Love Tina's on one tonight.
Yeah.
Ended up being so simple. I'm going to go with the Grant case.
Really?
Love Tina. Too long. It's a whole I could talk for 18 days. Google Doug and Faylene, Faylene, Grant. Everybody's done it. 2020, 48 hours, Discovery, Oxygen. They've all covered it. Very difficult case. Took 7 years to put it together. When I look back now, a lot of things I learned from Keri, actually, after the fact. I see the coercive control, domestic violence piece that made this case simple. But at the time, I just made it into something much bigger than that. And it was very simple.
Thanks,
Don't
babe.
ever underestimate somebody who has some serious mental health issues when it comes to domestic violence. Yep. And it'll be there forever.
What was
You're
the
not
question?
getting rid of. There's a dead dog that laid on the road all summer in Florida. When I was a kid, still smell them 50 years later. Welcome to Florida.
I communicate and see spirits and
that's
live
what
through
I
the
thought.
crimes in their bodies. Oof.
Yeah, let me tell you my one, and I'm Amethyst, just hear me
Scary.
out. I'm not judging. I am not. And I will take anything that helps solve a case. So number one, I am very open to, hey, if there's something that you're seeing or hearing that can help solve a case, I'm all for it. However, my only experience in that field is Alison Dubois. And those of you who maybe saw the NBC series years ago called The Medium, Patricia Arquette, I think, was who played Alison Dubois. That was based on a real story. Alison Dubois is an actual person. She did work for the Maricopa County Attorney's Office.
Book a long time ago.
Yeah, and going back to Roses for Jackie, on the Jackie Hartman case, she went on Oprah, and she told Oprah and the rest of the world where we would find Jackie. And a little news flash for everybody. She said this before we found Jackie. And she was right. She told Oprah that we would find Jackie in the desert just off of a road on a dirt berm, which is half of the damn desert. So it didn't work out.
The worst part is that she never even came to the police
I was going to say
department.
the thing that pissed me off with that is she lives in our community. She drove right past our police department, got on a plane, flew to Oprah, did the Oprah show, told everybody where we would find Jackie, and never hit the police department once. So,
well, thanks, Amethyst Noir, but be careful.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah. I'm with you, Kelly. 100%. Oh, okay, Heather. Here we go.
I missed it. Thanks, Kelly.
Yes. Yeah. Never mind. I'm gonna hold that story back. I had to get some cauterization once, and I'm gonna leave that story alone.
Darian, I'm ex-military. I know all about the dark humor. I've learned to keep my trap shut around civilians.
Yeah.
It is a balancing act, maintaining empathy and your sanity when you see a lot of terrible things.
Yeah, Angel, let me tell you, episode 53, you are not going to want to miss. When the wheels fall off in spectacular fashion, sometimes you can't go back. One case that I can talk about that we actually have an episode, again, thank goodness Bree's here. Little Annie, the case out of Draper, Utah. just outside of
Oh,
Salt
yeah.
Lake. I forgot what we named that one.
That was an early one. I think we called it Little Annie.
Do we call it Little Annie? We have a case angel, Little Annie. She was 16?
13? No, she was young. Was she 15?
I think she was 15 going on 16. Her boyfriend killed her with a shovel and threw her into the river. That agency had made so many mistakes on that case that when we first got involved, and I think we had figured it out, we went and met with the district attorney, and his first words to me were very clear. I'm happy to listen to whatever you have to say, but you need to know this case is so screwed up, the actual suspect could walk in today and confess, and I don't think we could convict him. And we literally had to go back to scratch and start from the beginning, which is what we cover a lot in that Little Annie case. And ultimately, we were going to trial, but the defendant actually pled guilty. It's one of the only times in my entire career that we got to a court hearing, and right then and there, the defendant changed his plea to guilty, turned around, apologized to the family, and actually recounted in vivid detail everything that happened. Was truly apologetic. So very interesting case, but that's probably my best example of that one.
Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with the Joseph Duncan case from Idaho?
I'm not going to lie, Toes. I'm trying to stay away from cases in Idaho right now.
As much as humanly possible.
You would be amazed at all of the cases in Idaho right now that I keep getting calls on, or somebody saying, you got to look at this Idaho, this or that. I don't want anything to do with Idaho right now. Like, my Idaho plate is full. So maybe in a year or so, I'll go look at the Joseph Duncan case.
Oh, dear.
Maybe.
That's exactly 100% accurate, not scary, at Keri Insight. If you ever want. Thank you, Amethyst Noir. We appreciate you reaching out to us like that.
That might be cool. You know what? Watch the, we came up again, the Cody Johnston case in Montana. Let us know what your thoughts on that one are, because that's Cody the one Johnston. That we're still trying to put some closure to. We have tons of them, Amethyst, that you could check out. In case that you didn't work,
that you wanted to, or wish you had been involved in. Yeah, the Menon. I really would have loved for Menon to contact us in a casino in Las Vegas.
Oh, Las Vegas. Yeah. We wanted Menon to give us the counterfeit money.
Yeah. I wish we would have been the victims in that case.
You know, Darian, that is a great question. Yes. My quick answer is yes, because I've lost count. Keri can try to put a number to this, of cases that we've gotten brought in way after the fact and we've had to try to fix. And my common thing was, man, I wish you guys would have called me on day one.
Oh,
easy.
Yeah.
Easy. We'll just leave that one up there.
Mm-hmm. Wish we could say more about that.
Twiz, I'm curious, just out of curiosity, which episode? I'm sorry, I threw out too much. I should have seen that when it first came in. Yeah, you got to get in there. Start binging.
Yeah. Has a case ever bothered you so bad you stayed on till you could solve it? How long? 7 years.
Yeah, Grant case.
The Grant
case. Everybody had dropped that one, and I stuck to it to the point of almost getting fired. In fact, I was told by a lieutenant in my police department that if he was found not guilty, I would most likely have been fired.
And the case was initially going to be closed as a suicide.
Yeah, that one. I've had a handful of ones that I've also worked afterwards. And, you know, this isn't going to make a lot of sense for everybody, but sometimes it's not about solving it. Sometimes it's about making sure things were done right. And what I mean by that is, and I'm not talking about anything current. What I'm talking about is sometimes we see mistakes that are being made that defendant probably isn't the right defendant. And we're not saying guilty. We're not saying not guilty. We're saying the process was screwed up. And I've had a number of those cases that I've gotten involved, even when people are guilty and we know they're guilty, but there's some serious screw ups in the case. We've gotten involved because it's important that the investigative method comes through as legitimate and that those things aren't overlooked. So I would say these days, those things really irk me the most.
Well, it's important for people to look at cases and look at them from a very critical viewpoint to ensure that bad case law doesn't erupt out of terrible methodologies for investigations.
Yeah. Okay. Got it, Twiz. Yeah, that was a pretty major case. Naomi, Idaho is a bit of a mess. I live here. I love Idaho, but what's going on? You know what? I think it's just your turn in the barrel. Every state has their really, really, really screwed up cases. And I think Idaho has just stayed under the radar for a long time. And now it started with the Lori Vallow case, obviously. I think you guys have just had your fair share of media really starting to cover more. You're getting more national exposure. But yeah, trust me, all of us have had our state in the barrel at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Worst example of partner's family that impacted a case by trying to hide info to protect the family name. Oh. Angel, you're going to enjoy episode 53, I think, when we start kind of delving into some of those topics in that case. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to hold my answer on that because we're working on a bigger production for that one.
We are working on a much bigger production for that one as well.
Oh, rise above. You're being ornery. I'm not going to answer that question.
I never heard back from Twiz on which episode changed his life.
It was Little Annie.
Oh, it was Little Annie?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, let's get that one off. Rise above, you're going to get me in trouble.
Precisely. Setting precedent with bad decisions is unfortunate. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
All states do have screwed up cases. We just don't know about them till the focus is on them.
100%.
Yes, Meanie, you are correct. I see Meanie like in my head because I never actually see a profile picture, but as this like tiny little petite person who like wears pink. I don't know why.
5 foot of find out.
Yeah.
Just later and trying to correct
I like
me.
having this vision of her in my
Darian. Head. Yes. We have a little sidebar right now, and I'm not going to talk about any current cases.
And those have you gotten pushback from coming into a case later and trying to correct things? Or were they open to your help?
I'm going to go there.
You are?
Yeah, I'm going to get in trouble. So this might be our last question because Keri's going to probably make me shut up after this. We might have a individual who's associated with a federal entity that I'm going to use the word threats. And I know the word threats is a big word.
Be careful here.
See, I told you you're going to reprimand me.
Yeah.
But this entity, or at least this person with this federal entity, is so upset that we got involved with a case that the pushback they're giving is they're telling some smaller agencies that they help that they will not continue to help them in the same manner if they use a product that I created. So when we talk about pushback from helping on a case, yes, but you're probably thinking pushback from family or from the courts or defense attorneys or whatever. To my surprise, sometimes the biggest pushback we get is with investigating agencies, which is really bothersome to me. I think I split the hairs on that one.
I think you should just stop there.
Told you guys Keri was going to get mad at me.
Yes. I don't remember him saying it on the stand that he wished they called him early. Did you say that? I don't know.
I think I might have said that.
Oh my God. Your saddest case. We've had a lot of sad cases, I think. Usually the saddest cases are with children, I think, where there are children involved. What was the case that she was locking? Well, Mother Huntsman was sad, but remember when the woman was locking her kids in the bedroom?
Padlocks. She had the padlocks.
She had the padlocks on the outside of the doors, and she was actually prostituting while her kids were locked in their bedrooms, and it was super sad, like because
she was running prostitution.
She was running a prostitution ring out of her house while she padlocked her kids in the bedrooms.
Yeah, I don't know.
And they would like knock, and they were like 2.5. Really
Mother
young.
Huntsman is definitely up there, Angel. When
Mother
you get into
Huntsman
the details of
sad.
Mother Huntsman, that one is because it could have been avoided. I think that, it's a child's case, but not only does it involve children, that one is just one of those obvious ones that was so easy to prevent, and pretty much everything failed that one. So that one was pretty bad. I actually kind of like this question. Everybody's hitting what's coming up in episode 50.
I know.
Is it 52 or 53?
53, I think. Yeah.
Weird question. Do you believe in the profession that reads faces and body languages to check honesty? I'm going to give you two answers, Kelly. And my first answer is it's bullshit. And the reason I'm going to say that is because when you hear people, and we cover this actually in episode 53, if I'm seeing you for the first time, I have no prior interaction with you, and right off the bat, I'm saying, oh, see, she did that. Oh, see, she's closing off. Oh, see, she's lying about this because she looked up and to the left. It's total bullshit. Do not believe anybody that does that. Now, if let's say you've watched every episode we've ever done and you have figured out some of my mannerisms, and based off of historical analysis of my interactions, my facial expressions, my body language, and you start to piece together that, hey, every time Keri makes Sai a little bit nervous, he does this. There is some truth to that, but it's not because you're just really good at reading body language out of the blue. It's because you've actually studied somebody's behavior and you understand that. I hate it.
Right now, I just realized when you were giving your answer earlier that I wasn't comfortable with my body language over time. If you'd watched all of our episodes over time, and me realizing just now the body language that I gave, I was uncomfortable with him speaking about that. But it does take a matter of time. So I don't think it can't be done.
Yeah, there's something to it when you know the historical perspective of that person.
Yeah.
But by me saying that anytime Keri looks up and to the left, she's nervous, and then you applying that to anybody you just randomly come in contact to, it's not accurate. So yeah.
I have a lot of nervous looks, actually.
Look at this one. Toes is backing you. Keri's a boss.
Thanks, Toes.
Twiz clone.
Is that Sai or Andy Cap?
Who's Andy Cap?
I don't know who Andy Cap is.
I have to look.
Behavioral pattern, like the question before. Yes.
Wait, what? Guess what?
Angel. We were talking about behavioral patterns.
Oh, tell me I don't look like Andy Clapp, for the love of
God. Who is Andy Cap?
I don't. Oh dear.
I don't know who that is.
I hope it's not the person I'm looking at. Okay, Twiz clone, you've got to put some context there. I don't know. And I just looked at Andy Cap. Oh, did I use Clap or Cap? No, I use Clap. That's why. Whew. I was like, oh God, please tell me I don't look like that guy. Oh.
Is it a cartoon character?
Yeah, it's like I know this character.
Oh, he's a comic strip character.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Ann.
It's the hat. It's the hat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is not Joe Rogan. Oh, you know what? We can clarify this one. This is probably a good one. Did you both work for Phoenix PD? I worked for the state in Arizona. I remember some of the cases you've talked about. Did you ever get involved in the Robert Fisher case? So Robert Fisher was out of Scottsdale, and yes, I was on SWAT for the Robert Fisher case, and we got used a little bit in that search. Robert Fisher, those of you who aren't tracking, killed his entire family, burned the house down, staged what a lot of people think is potentially his suicide up in the mountains outside of Phoenix, but he has never been found to this day. And I don't think he staged a homicide or a suicide at all. I think he beat feet out of the country. Angel, I didn't want to pass that one up, but I think there's a question there. I'm not sure, or yeah, I don't know. Hit me back if I screwed that one up.
Have you ever had to fear for your family being involved in a case?
Yeah, I would say so. How about you?
I don't know that I have, not yet.
Yeah, you've expressed concerns about having some of our public information readily found, like people could figure out who our kids were or stuff like that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I guess I do worry about that.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm ongoingly actively concerned. It's never just one case.
Nonstop.
Yeah, it's kind of I really never thought about that, but yeah.
I don't.
Kane was in the hurricane.
I think Twiz lost his mind.
Yeah, I don't know. But okay, well, we were gonna try to focus on the trajectory, but things got way off kilter, which that's okay. That was fine.
Yeah.
All
right, we're going to start wrapping this up. So if there's any more good questions, throw them out now. Otherwise, we're going to let you guys all enjoy your Sunday night. Plus, I have to feed Keri. It's only I only have so much time before Keri turns into a monster. She gets very hangry.
6:30. No, it was in response to the question you were asked about the body language thing.
Yeah. I'm just not a big fan of that. And I watched some interviews where people will really read into the body language. And I'm just thinking that's such crap. So we're talking about body language. Do you think experts who study language people use during interviews? Now, that is a whole different thing, Sarah. I am a big believer in that. People will tell you exactly what you want to hear. You just got to listen to it. And it's usually cloaked in some other statements. But I have had a lot of cases where I can speak to very specific moments where somebody said something just right. And usually it's pronouns.
She's talking about body language, though, with
people who study language people use during interviews. So, for example, there's what we call the lack of a social introduction. So if you guys didn't know Keri was my wife and you'd never met or saw Keri before, and I just start a story about, oh, me and Keri went blah, blah, blah. And I don't stop to pause the first time and say, Keri, my wife, that's social introduction. I'm telling somebody new that I've never met before that this person I did something with is my wife, my sister, my father, whoever it might be. Lack of social introduction is usually a big red flag when you're working different types of cases. And there's a whole bunch of little nuances like that. I'm a big believer in you need to understand language. It is very specific.
We also saw that a little bit in Where Do We Draw the Line when Sharon Hale started texting on behalf of her husband, Darren, after she had killed him. And we talked a little bit about that in that case as well, as far as how the social context of how she changed his name and identified him.
Yeah. Another one where she went from D to Darren. We have not helped in natural disasters like Milton. I know some of our tools have been used, but we personally haven't gotten involved with that.
I don't know.
I'm gonna let you answer that one while I clear
probably
this out.
Take me to Subway.
Yeah, Heather, you are 100% right. That's where I just get frustrated, where people say that, and then I'll listen to an interview, and somebody who's seeing somebody for the very first time is telling me how they're liars because they just know because they're experts. So
you didn't even hear me say you're probably gonna take me to Subway.
I'm not taking you to Subway.
No, he won't.
I think we're just about there. Wow.
Keri is my stomach. Did I spell it right? Yes. Yeah, I'm about to turn into Keri.
Hang on. There's a wait here. I got to see what this one is.
So people can take the phone of the person they killed and make it seem as if the person is still alive?
No, if you know what you're looking for, that's obvious, meaning this is going back to just like body language. We got to see a pattern of behavior. And what a lot of people don't realize is I can give you my phone right now and you can try to make it seem like I'm very much alive, but you're going to do things very different than what I do. The way you say things, maybe the order in which you operate, where you go. So typically when we've seen that in cases, we've been able to identify, okay, about this 10-minute period, somebody new has this phone because we're seeing a completely different pattern of behavior.
Have you ever arrested someone you know?
A lot.
Oh, I have something juicy about law enforcement tools for you tonight.
Oh dear. We'll have to see. Well, yeah, I'll stick around for that one. Where did you see the
right here, row. Have you ever arrested someone you know?
I have arrested police officers that I've worked with.
You also arrested your stepmother once.
Oh, you're going to go there.
Well,
I didn't arrest her.
I thought you did.
No, I took her to the police department to get arrested. There's a difference. Jesus, babe. I didn't know you were going to go down that road.
Sorry. Oh, that's a story for another time, team.
Yeah, it's going to take me a minute. We might have to end on that one. Jesus, babe.
Maybe we'll tell that story sometime. Sorry.
The distancing is real. Yes.
As I mentioned in a comment on another video, my brother was in the same department when Sandra Bland happened. Our whole family was doxxed. Are we able to pull up chaos in the justice system? There we go. That is crazy.
I think our deer here is on our, what's that thing you and Bree did where they can buy things from the city? We've got a link that actually, if anybody's interested in anything that's on our set
on
here.
Amazon.
How do they get to that? Do you remember? You don't.
No, you can go to Amazon and type Socialite Crime Club and it will take you to our.
There you go, Canesby. Go to Amazon, type Socialite Crime Club. Pretty much everything we have in the studio here, you can find directly on Amazon.
Yeah. So we're trying to add more to our Amazon. We also have in our community tab our
this is your fault.
The tea.
You explain. You open the. I'm pretty sure Time for Change is wanting to know why I drove my stepmother to.
You should tell them.
The police department to get arrested.
Yeah, you should tell them. This was a long time ago. His stepmother is no longer with us, by the way.
There was some legal issues, and my dad called me and was explaining the legal issues. And then I drove up to talk to him. I was a police officer at the time. And
talk to the camera.
I'm talking to you because you're the one that started this. Yeah, you look at the camera and try to hide your eyes of guilt right now. And I went up and I sat down and I talked with her, and I found out that everything law enforcement had alleged that she was doing, she did. And I said, well, there's only one thing to do, get in the car. And I drove her to the police department, and I made her go inside, and I explained to her, they're going to arrest you and they're going to book you, and you're going to take it, because I don't care who you are. If you're doing dumb things, there comes a time you got to pay the piper. So are you happy now?
I'm sorry I made you tell that story. There you go. Time for change. Apparently that's all you get tonight.
Oh.
Okay. How do cops involved in a crime attempt to conceal their part in it?
Not very well, I'll tell you. Most cops who commit the crime and then conceal it are pretty dumb. You'd be surprised at how the odds of them overwhelmingly getting caught. It's actually very common.
Mm-hmm. This one's a good one, Sarah. I can only imagine how much it makes you both angry seeing news of law enforcement abusing power and taking advantage of the vulnerable. It does suck, because I think we came from a place where we were always super supportive of law enforcement. And hearing what at the time were kind of tale-like to us of things that we just couldn't really believe happened, because we're so ingrained in our own investigative things that we had going on and doing the right thing, that we never really had time to consider who was actually doing bad stuff out there. And now that we're out of it and we have a much different perspective, it does suck. It sucks really bad.
I will go on a limb and say that this has completely redirected where I am spending time and focus on, is, to your point, Sarah, not just being angry about it, but how can I get more involved to help prevent it? And how can I be more involved in actually exposing it? And Keri and I are actually working on quite a few things right now that we believe we have the ability to maybe make a little bit of an impact there, and we kind of have a moral obligation to do it. So I would say it's actually consuming a lot of our time and effort right now.
Mm-hmm. It puts us in a really difficult position. It's very precarious. It's a very volatile position. And there's a lot of unknowns.
Unforgiving.
It's extremely unforgiving.
Yeah, because people you think would support you may turn on you really quickly. And it's interesting to see, at the end of the day, right's right, wrong's wrong. And I've always thought, if you're on the right side, you're in good shape. But I've found that sometimes ego gets in the way of that. And it makes things really complex. And now with that, we are definitely, you guys are just making all kinds of tea come
t-shirts. Yeah. No more sad questions. Do you have Sell Daddy t-shirts
No,
yet?
And we're not going to get Sell Daddy t-shirts.
I'm sure Bree will get on this immediately.
We will never sell a Sell Daddy t-shirt.
Whenever somebody asks for something in particular with
Darian, I'm clicking on the little side right here to ban you forever.
No, you're not. Yeah, Brianna will probably come up with something extremely creative for that. Now that you've mentioned it, Darian, she loves that kind of stuff, and we love her for it. So
yeah, we're not going to do Sell Daddy.
Okay. I think
God,
I'm gonna go eat now. Let's go.
Yeah, we're gonna go eat. Hey, thanks to everybody for tuning in. We were late to the game on this one. We actually drove from our house up in the woods to get down here as quick as we could today, so we didn't have as many internet issues as we've been having. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Another shout out to Lana. Always appreciate the support and the little super in there. I can pay for Keri's drink tonight now.
Yeah, thank you. Would you both be open to maybe doing a class on how we, the people, can do the same?
I've got to figure it out first, Sarah. I'm navigating that currently, and as soon as I get it figured out, we'll. No, not Tower Daddy either, Heather. Good Lord, this is so much. We definitely have to stop this today. Okay.
Thank you, Sarah. We appreciate you. But we're working through that, and we appreciate that love. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, everybody have a great week. We hope you enjoy Wednesday's episode. Thank you for coming in and joining us at the last minute. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.